McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy. Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit.
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And since the Flash movie is coming up soon and the Girl of Steel will be hanging out with the Scarlet Speedster, we are going to be discussing a Supergirl story in the book Flash Facts, which I keep wanting to say Flash Facts. Like real fast. So we are going to be looking at the Supergirl story in Flash Facts titled Home Sweet Space, written by Cecil Castellucci, maybe, illustrated by Gretel Lusky, and lettered by Wes Abbott. It's not technically a Supergirl Flash team-up story because they're not in the story together, but this is still a Supergirl story in a Flash book. And I've actually had this on my list for a while. I don't know if this has been on your radar, Morgan, but I thought this would be a good one for us to discuss while we are ramping up to the Flash movie. So this seemed like the best time to check this out. So this is a story titled Home Sweet Space. And before I guess we get into the story, maybe we should get into the book and why this book exists. So the description for this book reads, quote, "Have you ever wondered what's at the bottom of the sea? Why polar ice melts? Or which tools forensic scientists use to solve a crime? Well, look no further. Everyone's favorite Scarlet Speedster is here to answer all of your burning questions. Barry Allen, with the help of some of his close friends, will take readers on an exciting journey that examines everything from the vast expanse of our galaxy to the smallest living organism known to man. Curated by award-winning actress and author Mayim Bialik, PhD, so Dr. Mayim Bialik, and featuring stories created by an all-star cast of writers and illustrators, this anthology aligns with next-generation science standards and provides a helpful bridge between the lessons taught inside the classroom and our everyday lives," unquote. So that's a lot. So this is a book hoping to educate us on a science and science-related topics. So putting that in the context of superhero comics is an interesting angle. So with this Home Sweet Space story, this is I guess maybe we should sort of describe what happens in the story. So Morgan, would you like to start kind of describe what happens?
Just in case our listeners haven't picked up this book themselves and dove into it. So in this story, Supergirl goes to visit a local high school for School Superhero Day. This is a thing I double checked in my reference material.
Oh, look at you.
Look at me, I'm prepared. Where she meets Maya. Definitely remembered that name from reading it earlier today. Who is a little girl who is like, I need to have a science fair project. And the theme is home, like my home, and my home is so boring. My home sucks. I don't want to do a kitchen project like everyone else. Everyone else is going to do a kitchen project. Everyone's so lame. And so Supergirl is like, well, your home seems awesome. Like, your home planet of Earth is so great.
Yeah, she sees Maya's home as Earth.
Yeah, and she's like, well, maybe you think that because you're not from Earth, but like I'm from Earth and it sucks. Supergirl's like, listen, little girl, first off, your attitude's off-putting. But secondly, let's go to space so we can see your world. So she gets little Maya a spacesuit not clear from where. And like,
oh no, I think
space
it's
helmet.
actually very clear. If you look at the panel, she touches her belt on the super
What?
suit.
Yes.
Do you see
Okay.
that?
Now,
So
now
she
I'm seeing it.
She touches her belt, and the astronaut suit
This is
comes
wild.
out.
It just sort of popping out of her super suit.
Where did you put that?
Gotta be honest, I didn't know that was in the bag of tricks from the suit. But the more you know, thank you for pointing that out. I did not notice that. I just like it when I was looking at it, I was like, where'd she get this thing from? But it came from her belt. So she
But that's another good question, though. Is NASA just giving Supergirl like astronaut suits
maybe
to keep on her person at all times?
Listen, NASA did like an influencer partnership with Supergirl. Supergirl's on Instagram like, I don't always go to space, but when I do, it's with NASA. Get ready with me as I go to space. I start my morning with a cold brew coffee. As you can tell, I watch like infinite get ready with me videos. I find them so calming. I'm like, yeah, wow, what a great morning routine. My morning routine is usually wake up, scream because I'm late. Really face existence head on. But some of these girlies really have it right. So she, because of her NASA influencer contract, she has a spacesuit ready to go for this little girl. So she pops Maya in the spacesuit and off they go to space. It's unclear whether or not she was like signed out from the school to do
I think
this.
Supergirl just kidnapped.
She was just like, it's chill. Your parents will love this.
Don't have to sign off on the dangerous aspects. No liability waiver. Or anything.
No liability waivers or anything. It's not like a parental permission slip has to go home. Supergirl just like low key kidnaps this child, and off they go to space. Where she was like, "Here is your galaxy," right? She's like showing them, like, this is the galaxy. Here are all of the planets. She takes them through all of the different planets. She's like, look at it's Venus, look at it's Mars, look at it's Sailor Jupiter. And then they go and they visit Pluto, and they're like, we're really sorry you're not a planet anymore. That was tough, and maybe it was tougher for people who were born earlier who had learned that it was a planet and then had to like undo all of their knowledge. Tough for you millennials. And then we zoomed out of there, and then we went and we saw some asteroids, and then we came back, and then she was like, I think I know what I'm going to do for my project now, because it turns out that our galaxy is pretty cool and the Earth is pretty neat. Supergirl's like, that's right. That's what I've been telling you this whole time. And then her project at the end is just like a, what's it called when you put all the galaxies together?
Like a mobile?
Yeah, like it's just like a sort of standard issue science fair, like the Planet Mobile, where it's just they're just all kind of hanging from the top of the little construction board thing, and I was like, oh, I really expected her to like go in like an unexpected direction with this, but you just went literal for this thing, and that's cool, I guess. Like,
I mean, she did get inspired by Supergirl. Supergirl took her to space.
She did,
and this is the best she could do.
She's gonna have a lot more information when people come up and go like, "Whoa, Mars seems pretty cool," and she's like, she just pops up into their face and she goes, "Mars might be able to support life," and slowly back up away from her. But yeah, no, I was a little disappointed at the end when they showed her big project, and it was like a project that I have 100% done as a child, where I'm just like, you get the foam balls.
Oh yeah, it's the styrofoam. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you paint them, and you hang them from little strings, and then you're like, done and done, baby.
Yeah, so it is a little disappointing that Maya had this big inspiration and just kind of went the standard route, which is fine. It's fine, but maybe you could have use Supergirl to help you with your science fair project instead of just giving you information. Supergirl could have at least done that, because she put Maya in a considerable amount of danger, I think. Even if she had the astronaut suit, she's still up in space.
I know.
What if the suit broke and she couldn't breathe? There are lots of thoughts to go through in that. So, Morgan, for you personally in reading this, how do you think that the story did? Because I think the goal of these stories is to put it in a superhero context, but then also give you science facts to help you learn about these sciencey things. So how do you think the comic, did it succeed or did it not succeed?
So I will say, after I read this Supergirl comic to be ready for tonight's show, I was like, well, I've got this book now. I've got this book on my phone. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna see what other science I can learn from the superheroes. And I didn't read, I think I read like one, two, like 3 or 4
Oh,
of
that's
the
good. Yeah.
additional stories. Yeah. And I will say this one had the most information like packed within it, I think, of all the stories that I read. Like the Flash, like they all were pretty good at like going over scientific concepts, but this one was like, I'm going to tell you about every planet in the solar system. And I was like, really? Everyone? They were like, yeah, and some asteroids too. So like we learned some like really interesting stuff in here, and it's been a long time since I've had to like do any kind of deep dive on the planets, probably since I was a child watching Sailor Moon and being like, I have to understand the source material. So I got like real into Venus. But I was like, it was kind of bringing back my like science, like middle school, grammar school science memories of like learning about the planets. And like this one is like has an atmosphere that's like really thick, and this one has an atmosphere that's way too thin. And this one used to have water, but now it's ice, baby. And I thought that, and it was interesting to actually, because again, the last time I did like read all of this stuff, I was probably in like grammar school. So it's interesting to see like the modern update stuff where they talk about like Pluto or like upcoming space missions that they're like, oh yeah, we're planning on getting, a space thing to this one by like 2025, and then like maybe again by 2036 or something like that. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. Like it seems like they wrote this comic at least with some input from like maybe NASA, or kind of double checked their sources and things like that to see like what were the upcoming space flights that are going to like research some of these things. So I did learn some new stuff, because I was like, oh yeah, I wasn't aware that like this thing landed on this thing and that thing went to this planet, or I can't remember which planet it was now. I think it might have been Venus, where they said that they landed. It like it's so hot there that it melts metal.
Yeah, it's the hottest planet in our solar system, which I don't think I knew.
I don't think I knew either. And they said that they had a drone on there, and it lasted 1 hour, presumably before it melted.
Yeah.
Drone was like, oh no.
This was a mistake.
Uh-oh. Beach vacation was a mistake.
Well, you bring up the missions. So I have a question, because this story seems to be putting this in our real world. And so that got me thinking about real world space missions and how Supergirl would play into this. And I started thinking, well, why doesn't, now maybe I'm thinking about this too hard, but why doesn't NASA hire Supergirl to do the missions for them instead of training astronauts and spending all this money and building those rockets? They could just say, hey, Supergirl, we need you to go and do these experiments on this planet, or in this different galaxy, or wherever. You obviously can fly in space with no problems. You don't need an astronaut suit like Maya does. Can you just go up there, fly up there real quick, and do this for us? Why isn't she like part of NASA?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, really, if you think about it. I thought that this comic did have certain moments where like the veil between the comic book universe and our universe got very thin. And I like it started to make me question some things, because she starts like talking about like, oh, scientists haven't found any intelligent life yet. And I'm like, girl, but you're here. And then when they go to Mars, she's like, scientists think that there could be intelligent life on Mars, or not intelligent life, but there could be some form of life on Mars, because there used to be water on it. It seems like it's frozen now. Maybe it's evaporated. We don't really know.
Right.
And I was like, but what about your good friend John Jones? Didn't he
Yeah,
live?
I thought the exact same thing.
I'm sorry, Cara. Didn't he live there? And isn't he intelligent life?
He
So
might know about what happened
yeah,
on
so
Mars.
it kind of like, I think what happened is like it's like, yeah, you're trying to teach this to younger people about science, so you don't want to teach somebody in grammar school that yeah, there isn't life on other planets except Mars, where there are totally Martians. There was like a whole coup with the green ones and the white ones.
Their whole
And then,
civilization burned. It was really
and then
tragic.
the kid goes to school and was like, stuff is popping off on Mars, let me tell you. Like, you don't want to do that. But also she is Supergirl, right? So it's like, like, so then it makes you wonder, as like a comic book reader, it's like, well, but how do you justify all those aliens, of which you are one, if you keep saying that there's like, we haven't found intelligent life yet? It's like, but you're here, so
that's how you got here, is because you knew that there was intelligent life here on Earth.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, now we're getting a little bit close to the divide between real life and comic books, and I'm just gonna hand wave and I'm just gonna give it a pass. But it did make me laugh when they got to Mars and they were like, not yet, and I was like, John Jones is mad. Somewhere out there, John Jones is like, oh, not intelligent, huh?
What am I? Nothing to you? What am I?
We're gonna talk about this at the family reunion. Your space dad is angry. He just sends her like a bunch of sad face emojis.
So, were there? You mentioned that you had learned some things. I was curious if there were like particular facts that striked your interest, because I actually came away from this book interested more in Jupiter, because I don't really know about Jupiter, but the story says that Jupiter's moon Europa has the necessary energy and chemical elements that are needed for life. And I was like, I did not know that.
I will say this story seemed pretty thirsty to get out there and start like terraforming planets. I don't know if that was just me, but every planet was like, this could maybe support human life, when we ruin this planet. I was like, okay. I thought there was also going to be like a little bit of a conservation message at the end, because they get back to Earth and she's like, oh wow, like the solar system's incredible and like Earth is like an amazing place, and Supergirl's like, yeah, it is amazing. And then they're like, okay, here's the solar system, bye. And I was like, don't want to say anything about like maybe protecting it,
taking care of the Earth,
or that's okay. They've really got their eyes on the prize, which is, which moon can we live on in Jupiter? They've given up on the home planet. They're looking to the stars for solutions in this comic.
Well, it does say that Jupiter is the planet we've sent the most missions to. I also did not know that. I need to learn more about Jupiter.
I would not have guessed that, honestly. No. I would not have guessed that it was Jupiter. I would have thought like Mars, maybe.
Mars has had a lot of activity,
because it's like a little bit closer. And
they have all those rovers up there doing
they've
things.
Got the rovers. The water seems like it's like a good sign for like, maybe that there's some version of life could happen there. So yeah, I feel like we've gone to Mars a lot. Apparently we just kind of gave up on Venus because of that melty drone, but I didn't realize how much we'd been to Jupiter, which I think is pretty funny. I thought it was super fascinating where they talk about the different stars and how they classify them in different letters. I don't think I actually was aware of this, that they classified them like along a letter spectrum from O, which is the hottest, to the coolest, which is M. Although I will say, my critique is that this visual representation has O, the hottest, as blue.
Yes.
And M, the coolest, as red.
Which you would think that red would be hot.
Now, just based on like, hi, buddy. What do you think?
Hey, Beaker.
Bunsen was
that's Bunsen.
Incredibly confused by this part of the comic. Do you remember this part? It was the part that you got really confused about. Like, why was it blue and red? Oh, buddy. Why? Hi, buddy. Hey, bud. Oh, wow. I don't know why he cares so much about this right now. But he does. He really wanted to weigh in. Hey, bud. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of weird. It's like not an intuitive way to visually represent that. So, but I didn't know that they had a letter system, and I also am curious about what the letters stand for. They don't tell you that. But
No.
because they seem very random. It's like O, B, A, F, stuff like that. That doesn't really make sense.
EKM. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like ABC in an order or anything.
Yeah, I had that same thought about the O and the M having the kind of the wrong visual color choices there, but maybe that's actually how they're represented. Maybe that's how NASA does it,
Maybe.
which seems wrong. But I don't want to tell
It does
NASA
seem
what to
wrong.
do.
It does seem wrong. It does seem oh boy.
Oh no, he's going after the light.
He's got to go after the light. He does love his he loves the limelight. He's always going to find his light. And then he's going to knock it over. That's the Bunsen guarantee. He's still up here, but he's decided to sort of sit off to the side and just kind of listen and learn.
Yeah. Well, if people are interested about Earth's sun and what classification it is, apparently it's a G-type star, so it's actually just average.
Yeah, just sort of in the middle there.
Yeah, of the the hot and cold temperatures. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah,
but it seems like it's pretty hot.
I guess any hotter and probably we wouldn't be here. Maybe the same for any colder. I was actually kind of just like, as I read this story, kind of just like struck by the vastness of the universe and like the odds of the Earth's placement where it is, and like they talk about like, oh well, Jupiter's moon has this thing for life, but not this thing, and this one has this thing for life, but not this thing, and it's just like, if you think about it, how amazing it is in this like whole galaxy that Earth would have popped up. Hi, buddy. He thinks that too. Doesn't that make you feel small, Bunsen? Doesn't that make you feel like a plastic bag?
That actually makes me feel very special that we are on this planet that just so happens to be perfectly constructed for us to live on. What are the odds?
What are the odds? Hey, buddy, what are the odds? What is your favorite planet, Bunsen? I'm curious to see which one do you like the best? He doesn't want to weigh in on this. He says it's too controversial.
He doesn't want to exclude any of the other planets.
He's like, listen, I know that some of these planets have big fans. I don't want to like step on any toes. I feel like Bunsen is like maybe he's like a Pluto boy. Yeah. He's a Pluto truther. He still thinks that Pluto is a planet.
Not gonna let it go.
Never will.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I like Pluto as a planet. Can't take that away from me. Well, I do have some critiques on kind of this story. It's good to hear that you read some of the other stories and that some of them were a little more
story-esque,
story focused. Because this one kind of wasn't. It had an introduction to the story, and then it had a little wrap-up conclusion. But then in the middle, it was just all space facts. Lots of space facts.
It's I'd say 90% space facts, 10% Supergirl, and that might be a generous 10%. Honestly,
yeah,
it might have been like 99% space facts, 1% Supergirl.
So I was trying to think about what they could do to maybe make that balance a little better. Because for me, it got a little too overwhelming. Like I thought the space facts were cool, but it just was like too much information coming at me. And it was hard to focus on everything. So I would probably, if it had been my story, which I'm not a NASA science space expert, but I would have had a more focus, like maybe focus on one planet. Or maybe focus on one aspect of space, or like a space mission or something like that. You could have had some action. Maybe there was a villain who was doing something to the Earth. Maybe something diabolical up in space, and they had to go up there and solve a problem or stop a villain. Something that had a little more action. It was just kind of more. It was heavy on the education, but light on the entertainment.
Yeah, I agree that it was very, very dense too, and like the amount of information that they were giving you in each panel, it just felt like, oh, how am I still on this page? I felt that many times where I was like, because I was doing like the guided view, And so I'd be like, surely I'm on the next page now. And I'd be like, nope, every page just has 25 blocks of text. So I agree with you. Like the story, in so much as there is a story, doesn't really exist. It's like she's taking a little girl to space to like teach her that space is cool. I feel like if they were going to go that route, yeah, like narrowing down the focus instead of every single planet plus some asteroids plus some moons of Jupiter, they could have focused on like 1 or 2 planets, or they could have like had Supergirl meet maybe some of her super friends who like are space based. Like maybe she could have met some of the Green Lanterns floating around up there, or maybe she could have talked to Martian Manhunter on Mars and he could have given her some fun Mars facts. Then again, you are breaking some sort of reality comic book layer, but I mean, why not? I feel like there's other things that they could have done. They could have maybe like, brought in a villain or something, had that be an aspect of the story. There just wasn't really a story, so to speak. It was like more of like a loose premise and then a bunch of planet facts.
Yeah, I like the idea that Supergirl is paired off with this little girl at the school who needs to learn about Earth and her home is awesome. I like that. I like the inversion of the fact that Maya says something to Supergirl about, well, your home is cool because you're from space, and Supergirl says to her like, yeah, but to me, you're from space. I thought that was actually a
I
nice
thought that was
little
really
moment,
cool. Yeah.
because that actually made a lot of sense. So I think, and maybe focusing maybe more on the characters a little bit, but with stories like this, you don't have a lot of storytelling real estate. It's like 12, 13 pages, so it's a really short
like
story.
at the most.
So I don't know how you develop more character within that time frame, but I kind of would have wanted a more balanced take on it, where it was a little bit more entertainment value to it. Because I mean, Supergirl's up in space and like they're just kind of flying around looking at stuff.
I know. Yeah, I wish that there was more, maybe even more with the Maya character, like Supergirl and Maya bonding over things. Because at some point Maya just starts to become like an encyclopedia. She's just like, "Did you know XYZ?" I'm like, "Girl, how did you?" Wait, when did you get all these science facts? Oh, suddenly you were paying attention in science class.
Yeah, so I realize that they don't have a lot of pages to tell a story like this, but I kind of wish it had been a little more to it. Though I appreciate the space facts and the ability to share that with, kids seem to be the target audience for this book. But I don't know. I was also kind of wondering, I can't speak for any children of various ages because I am not one. I am a grown adult. But if I was having a little bit of a trouble focusing on it, I wondered if kids would. If kids maybe needed a little more entertainment for that. But I don't want to dumb it down and say kids can't read, straight facts. But I imagine that most people reading it might want a little something extra. But I don't know. I was just trying to think about it from like the kid point of view.
Yeah.
Like, what would a kid think?
I feel like from the kid point of view, it does feel like there wasn't enough like comic booky action, and it was a little bit too educational. Like that would be my vibe, but I don't know, maybe kids are like, "Whoa, 6 science fact." Which a lot of them were. But yeah, I don't think that there was like much of a story, so I feel like maybe some of the kids would like struggle with that a little bit of it just being like fact after fact after fact. I think maybe it would have been a little bit easier if they had sort of narrowed down the focus instead of being like the whole solar system. Or, they had shown some examples of some stuff in like a story way to kind of get it to stick. It brought me like way back to like, I have the Sailor Moon theme song now stuck in my head. I knew all the planets back in the day because I knew which ones were inner scouts and which ones were outer scouts. So I knew that, which ones were closest to the sun and which ones were furthest away from like when they entered the Sailor Moon universe. Obviously, I know that the planet for Neptune and Uranus are in love. That's obvious as well. So when they got out to the end, I was like, oh, look at them, so happy together. Love you, gals.
So with Sailor Moon, did that? I don't want this to be Sailor Moon Radio, but
I mean,
it probably
you
could
don't
be.
Want that.
But do you think that you remember those things because there was more of an entertainment value that helped inform the educational part of it?
Absolutely. Yeah, the only interest I had in the planets was that they were related to Sailor Moon. But I did end up knowing, like, as a child, like, a lot of planetary facts just because I could have, like, at one point, I could have named all the planets in order because I knew where they were in the show and I knew who was which character. And I was like, Sailor Venus is a queen. I love her. This is where she is next to the sun. Sailor Jupiter, so sporty. She's over here. But I think that stuff like that really like resonates with kids because it's like harder to just kind of digest like a string of facts. I think even adults are like this. Like it's like you tell me like 20 things, I'm gonna remember maybe one of them.
Yeah.
But if you make them into like a story that I can get invested in, then I'm gonna remember every single one of those facts. Past useful information that I need for my life.
Yeah, so that's good to hear that Sailor Moon helped you with those educational facts. Okay, well, I guess Morgan, what are your thoughts on overall thoughts on this story? Did you enjoy reading it? Would you recommend it to people, or recommend the book maybe to people?
Yeah, so I thought that story I thought it was nice. I liked all the facts. I thought they were interesting. Would I say, like, to a grown adult Supergirl fan, would I say, like, this is a must read? No. You could, you could kind of get the same experience by like looking up a documentary about about space, or an article online and reading it. It's not very narrative, this Supergirl chapter, unfortunately. I always like when Supergirl gets to like bond with like girls, like little girls, and like kind of be like a mentor for them and like a hero and like an inspiration. So I was really excited early on. But then like the relationship between her and the little girl is mostly just like trading planet facts, which gets weird. So like I don't feel like they really like bonded on any kind of like emotional level. It was more like, hey, did you know this sick fact about Mars? And she's like, I sure did. Did you know this additional sick fact about Mars? And I'm like, wait, why does everybody know so many things about Mars? I feel like maybe adding a little bit, and to your point, like page count is tough. It's tough to do a lot with like, 10 or 12 pages in terms of like teaching things and doing character work. But I feel like there should have been maybe a little bit more character work. I don't think I would like suggest this to an adult by themselves, but if you have some kids who maybe are interested in science, I think this could be a fun introduction to them to like learn about space.
Yeah, I thought the art was actually great.
The art was fun.
The visuals were great. It was just a lot of information to take in and understand and to sort of keep up with. So it was getting a little overwhelming for me and a little confusing for me. But the visuals, I think, helped it out a little bit because the art was really nice. I think the book may be a good recommendation just because it's a different kind of superhero book and there's a lot of different superheroes in it. It's not just a Supergirl book or it's not just a Flash book. There's a lot of heroes in it. So if there are people interested in science but also like DC Comics, this might be a good one to check out, and especially if you want to learn things. This would probably be full of educational things that people could check out.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned to you either earlier on or before we started recording, and I had some extra time before we started recording, so I was like, why not like see what else is in this book? So I read the first 3 or 4 stories. They have one about the Flash. And in that story, he is it goes into his work as a CSI, which was super clever, and talks about like forensic investigation and like DNA and like what DNA is and stuff like that.
Cool.
And then it takes you through a spoiler alert. It takes you through a case, and it's like, if I found this and there was this clue, which of my rogues galleries, based on the evidence, do you think it could be? And I thought that was fun because I was like sitting there going, like, who could it be?
So you were part of the investigation.
I was part
you
of
were
the
helping the
investigation.
Flash investigate.
I guessed the correct person, by the way.
Good for you.
So I'm basically a detective.
And then you do watch a lot of crime.
I do watch a lot of true crime, and
crime.
I was on the lookout too. I was like, is he going to talk about anything that's been debunked as junk science? Because I will get all over this. And no, he doesn't. It's all about like DNA and like, finding DNA from hair and using the CODIS system. There was no use of like, I thought when he started talking about blood, I was like, I swear if he gets into blood splatter analysis, which has been pretty thoroughly debunked, but he didn't. So, I mean, I'm sure that's what everybody was worried about, was the true crime girlies reading this book going like, excuse me? I've listened to a podcast about this, so I'm basically an expert. And and then they have one, the next one is Batman. And his was, I will be honest, it took a really unexpected turn, which is like, I was like, what is Batman's going to be about? Because we just did The Flash, and his was about, detectiving, like forensic work. So like, what could the Batman's be? He's a detective.
Right.
Batman's, I want you to guess what Batman's issue is about.
I don't know the story, but I see that there is a lot of Plastic Man, which makes me excited.
It's about 3D printing. I never in a million years would I have guessed that the Batman one would be about 3D printing. Touche. Well done, book.
That makes sense, though. He builds armor. He makes gadgets. He would have to print pieces and parts to make all of his stuff.
He has to print those pieces, and how is he going to do it? Well, he's got a really nice 3D printer is the answer.
And he could afford the really good one.
I mean, top of the line. let me tell you. And then they had one for Poison Ivy. And in this story, randomly, Poison Ivy has like 3 daughters. Twist. Okay. And she teaches them about DNA. So I was like, okay, we're back to DNA. That's cool. And like how it's in plants and how it's in people. And then Swamp Thing pops up in it, which is amazing. The best part of this one for sure was when they were talking to Swamp Thing, and they were like, oh, but like how do babies get made? And Swamp Thing was like, you know what? I just heard somebody call me and I gotta go. And Swamp Thing just abandons Poison Ivy to have to explain this topic to her daughters. Swamp Thing's like, oh, not my responsibility at all. And he's like, whoop, flowers, and just disappears. I love Swamp Thing so much. He was a real hero in that issue. And then the last one I read was a Cyborg story where he is really excited because he is playing VR with his friend Beast Boy, and they're playing as Superman and Batman. And for some reason in this game, and I don't understand the mechanics of this game at all, they're skiing down a mountain made of spaghetti.
That seems right, because this is like the Teen Titans Go version.
Yeah.
Of the characters.
Of Cyborg. Yeah, for sure. It's the Teen Titans version. And they're skiing down a mountain made of spaghetti around the Meatball Mountains, and with Parmesan cheese, like softly falling like snow. And it's super weird and very funny. And he teaches Beast Boy about how VR works with like the 2 different, how the goggles work and the 2 different holes to kind of like you like basically create like the 3 dimensions that your eyes create, and how there's like rotoscoping in there so that if you turn, it knows where you're looking, and things like that. And the little dots on the VR headset, which tells you like the depths of like where you are in relation to everything else, which was really neat. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, I didn't know all that about VR. I just learned something new from Cyborg and Beast Boy.
Yeah, that looks really cute. I'm gonna have to read that one. But that makes total sense for their characters.
And
for
that
the
was
Spaghetti Mountain.
the only one. That was the last one I had gotten to before we had to record. So I missed. I think the next one is
Green
maybe another.
Lantern,
Yeah, it looks like a Green Lantern
and then
one.
maybe a Mary Marvel Atom
It
story.
looks like an Atom story, Subatomic, and then the Supergirl story. And then I think there's
an
one.
Aquaman, which
Yeah,
has
there's
some really
Aquaman.
interesting art. I like the art
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Aquaman story.
They look like I'm trying to think of the artist. I think it's the artist on like there's a couple artists on Twitter, I think, that I've seen that have like a similar art style to this. And I don't see it in comics all that often, which is so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that one was illustrated by Venetia or Yanesia Moises. I don't know who that is, but a really cool art style. And then there is a Kid Flash comic.
Yeah, it looks like Flash Kid Flash.
Some weather wizard.
And then there's something with Swamp Thing, it looks like. And that's it. Those are all of them. So
yeah, and that one's pretty cool because it's like a loose leaf paper drawing.
Yeah, it's like kind of looks like a zine from like the 90s or something. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I think there's like overall, I think there's like 9 stories, and I didn't spend too much time reading any of them tonight, and I got through like 4. So pretty quick read overall, I think, like if you were thinking about like picking it up just to see the fun science facts plus the DC characters, like you could definitely read this in like a night.
Yeah, I think this is a good one if you're into science and you like DC Comics. But in terms of, I guess, our expectations for a Supergirl story, because we've read so many, we may have high expectations for something like this. But I think it was a good attempt at sharing space facts and helping people understand our Milky Way galaxy and the things that are up there in space, because Supergirl would know something about that because she is from the stars. Well, I guess that will do it for our thoughts on the issue and the book, but I have a couple snap judgments for you, Morgan. So if you want to make those, we can do those.
Always.
In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, our first snap judgment is go on a space adventure with Supergirl or stay on Earth and make scientific observations on the ground.
I mean, if you're up in space with Supergirl, you're probably going to be pretty safe. She's given you an astronaut suit. You're up in space. She can catch you if like you drift away or if you fall or whatever. You might not fall in space, but like if you fall on the way up there. But I don't know. I'm really paranoid about like what if the astronaut helmet cracks and I can't breathe, because Supergirl really can't do much about it at that point. So I think I'm just gonna play the safe thing, because like that Sandra Bullock movie. What was that called? When she goes up into space, Gravity.
Oh yes, Gravity. That was a stressful movie.
Yeah, she's like trying to do everything she can to get back to Earth, and then like when I don't want to spoil it, I guess, but
I think it's been long enough.
She gets back to Earth, and when she lands on the sand, it's like the greatest moment of the film because she's finally made it. I think, I'm just going to skip all that drama and just stay on the beach. I think I'll just do some science experiments on the ground.
That's fair. I think I want to go see the planets up close. I feel like I've been preparing for this my whole life. Not in any real concrete way, mind you, like knowing things or training in any way, but just like mentally in here, I've been ready. Yeah. And so I think if Supergirl was like, "Hey, do you want to go to space?" I'd be like, let's do this. Let's do this. I'd be putting on my spacesuit that came out of her belt. I'd be wondering why it was in my size specifically, and I would be not asking any questions. Okay, our next snap judgment. Would you rather participate in school superhero day or the science fair?
I don't think you have to. Is there preparation for superhero day?
I don't
'Cause
know.
with the science fair, you have to do a project, you have to do homework and research, and you have to create like one of those little boards and like talk to people about your project. That's a lot of work. I don't think I want to put. I've done that before when I was in middle school, and I don't want to. I don't want to do. I'm lazy, so I think I'm just gonna go superhero day. Even if I had to prepare something, I think you're ready for space. I'm ready for superhero day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I agree with you. I don't want to have to do a science fair presentation. I remember doing those. You had to get the big cardboard,
Yep.
always the big cardboard. My mom felt very passionately that it had to be one of those big cardboards that like stood up and had the sides. And I was like, Mom,
Yes.
it's not that serious. And she was like, actually, it is. And then you had to come up with an experiment. Like, were they all winners? No. Did I make a lemon battery one time? I sure did. Was it great? Not really.
Did it work?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, as much as a lemon battery ever worked. But I feel like I've done my time in the science fairs of the world, and I've done medium. I've done okay. I've gotten some ribbons.
No,
but
look at you.
I've got some ribbons. Let me brag on myself. Maybe more accurate to say my mom got us some ribbons. She felt very passionately about the science fair as well. Probably more passionately than little Morgan did, who was like, all right, whatever. But yeah, I think I would sign up for superhero day. That seems like more of a low stakes kind of situation where I don't have to do a lot of work. I don't have to go near a lemon. I don't have to make anything that isn't already a magnet into a magnet. And so I'm going superhero day.
And you might get to meet Supergirl.
And I might get to meet Supergirl, which would be really cool.
Yeah. So
You're on our podcast.
we talk about you all the time. I hope your ears are burning if they can in a Kryptonian way. But yeah, so thank you for playing Snap Judgments with me. We've done the Home Sweet Space version of Snap Judgments. No judgments on your Snap Judgments. All right, now let's get to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV podcast plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Hello, and thank you for calling the DC TV Podcast Hotline. Please listen carefully as some of our menu options have changed. Supergirl Radio? Press 1. The Flash Podcast? Press 2. Legends of Tomorrow Podcast? Press 3. The Lithuanian Room? Press 4. DC on HBO Max Podcast? Press 5. Stargirl Podcast? Press 6. Superman and Lois Radio? Press 7. Green Lantern Podcast? Press 8. The Sandman Podcast? Press 9. Justice League Dark Podcast? Press 10. DC After Dark? Press 11. For all other inquiries, please stay on the line and the next available agent will be with you shortly.
And since we talked about science, we have some science-related designs in the T Public store, we'd love to suggest.
Yeah, if you are interested in getting some new DC TV or just DC merch, we have some stuff in the DC TV Podcast T Public store. Some aerodynamics of a superhero. You can get that in a t-shirt or a mug or a hoodie. And then there's also, since we talked about Barry Allen being a forensic scientist in his story in Flashbacks, we have a design about how he's just, an ordinary forensic scientist. Nothing special. He's not like the Flash or anything. He's just an ordinary forensic scientist. But you can get all those things in the DC TV Podcast T Public store, and that helps to go support DC TV podcasts. So thank you for people who shop in our store. Also, we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors. These people are Michael, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Tara, and Majuba. If you would also like to be a Supergirl Radio Legion of Super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio, and we appreciate your support. And I guess I'll tell you about me a little bit. If you want to keep up with me on the interwebs, you can follow me on the app Vero True Social at Derby Kid. You would know that I just started watching a new cult TV show. Well, I should clarify, a TV show documentary about cults called The Deep Dive on a one Teal Swan. So I've been told a lot of things about this person. So now I'm checking it out to see what the documentary says. So that is my latest venture into watching things. Also, you can check me out on Instagram at The Derby Kid if you want to see some stuff I post over there. And it's mostly just sharing reels of like funny cat videos. It's not too exciting. You can also subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I'll start working on some SnyderCon content, some more SnyderCon content, and some live streams related to that. I've got to close out my BBS Critical Reception series, and then I think I'm going to just do some live streams and talk to some fans that I know who are very passionate about the Snyderverse. So I think I'll be doing that this summer. So that's a new project that I have on the horizon. So if you want to hang out with me over there, feel free to do so.
Cool. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow / Legendary Lady podcast, where we also have a Instagram account. I was just going to say Twitter, but an Instagram account. And we just hit 100 followers. But
nice.
We'd like to hit 100 more. So please go follow us at The Legendary Ladies on Instagram and at The Legendary Ladies on YouTube. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up, some pop culture stuff, maybe some more Legends stuff. We might want to look back a little bit at the show that was, since it's been almost, I think it's been a year now since the show got canceled.
Wild. Yeah.
Which is so crazy. So we're plugging along there at the Legendary Ladies podcast. So come and say hello.
Nice. I really enjoy your Instagram account. So thank you for doing the good work. Well, okay. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope that this comic helped you get to know your neighborhood.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!